So the first thing you'll notice when you open up our template, you'll have a splash screen here. So it's a startup screen. This will load automatically. And this just saves time for when you want to open up your model. Say someone opened up a 3D view with shadows and realistic and all these materials. It takes a long time to open up your project, whereas this splash screen won't. It also has a lot of information for our project. So you can see all of our project information, any disclaimers, project notes, etc., all found within our Manage tab and our project information. And this is where you can start to adjust things. So for example, our build number, if we wanted to change that, we want to make sure that everyone is in that same version of Revit. So if we just go up to the top here, about, and you'll see a pop-up like this. And I typically just copy paste this over. So I've since updated my 2026. So I probably would want to update this as well. So again, just going into our Manage tab, project information, and down here, there's a multi-line text that I can go in and Control V. Okay. And see that it updates. And this is nice because it'll update everywhere as well. We also have some audit stuff. So any like Revit links and any views that are not on the sheet. So should we be having them on our inner project? Maybe, maybe not. But this just helps us audit our model a bit and keep that model size down. When you do create a new project, you'll notice that I have them up here, but I also have that drop down for other template files. You can just browse to it every time, but if you want it to always be the first option, just go into File, Options, and under our file locations, you'll just browse here and put it into the top and name it accordingly. So now all three of those are up there, so I can use them. In our Legends dropdown, you'll see our template standard. So I put XX just to force it down to the bottom. So you can just double click on that and you'll be able to see our template standards. So we can see all of our typical line style types and their sizes, text types, dimension types, fill patterns for bats, and then just typical fill patterns. And then the red just kind of gives you notes. We do have two north arrows, one of which just is manual, but this one actually has a global parameter associated to it. So if we just put in that global parameter and our manage global parameters, you'll see that it will also adjust. So it's rotated, probably should be 45 degrees, not 450, but you'll see that it moves around as necessary. So you can put that in there and it will always show accordingly. You can also use these scale bars within your pages. If we just open this one up here, so you'll see our typical layout here. If you go up to the top, you'll see our typical apartment legend. So these are all the associated colors for council. You can pick and choose how you change them up, but those are readily available for you. There are also typical stuff in here. So when you're ready, just select them all and delete. But for the most part, we want to keep them in there just so that when we purge, we could still have the appropriate information in there. And you can kind of go through here and see different things. So typical keynote, so it's tagging it with the value in a text. This one is just the value. So it's picking up the keynote information from the store, which you can see here. And from that file, the keynote file. You can adjust these as you see fit, but we just use the NatSpec one. And then we have our door tags as well. So you can see that door is number 11, and then it has a door level. So 00, and that window, I just put it on level 01 just so you can see the difference. It will have a prefix of L for you. So you just need to put in the level. And then we have different types of multi-category tag types. So you can see generic models, tags, or family type, or description. And this is pulling out various information. So if I click in here, I can see type mark, family type, and description are all ready for you. There is also a tag that will take this generic model. So it's placeholder. So if I look here, I can see it says placeholder. This one is rogue. So it's just taking in that family name. And you'll notice this kitchen, they are all in 3D, which is nice. So you can start to work with it in 3D. We also have a typical DDA bathroom, which you can go in, change its sizing, and it'll adjust accordingly, or you can use the arrows to move them around as well. And you can pick and choose if stuff is visible or not. So for example, if I take out the shower and I hit apply, you'll see that the shower's gone. And lastly, these note plan tags. So this could be used instead of keynotes, but this way it allows you to just add a number and some text. So it could just be talking between teammates, and you can have that adjust accordingly. And this will all go into a schedule, which you can then tag. So at the moment it's an area plan, but whatever you associate that with. So if it's a section, for example, do the same. So you could just technically have them like that. And then in your schedule, you can put it in as a schedule. So kind of like a legend instead. If you just want numbers, and you'll see that here. So all the numbers, how many there are, and it's an area plan. So for example, if I change one of these to a section and hit apply, notice that now it's under section. So you can use these and put them on your plans with just the note number. We have organized all these by view series. So if we just go into the view series, go to edit, and in our grouping and sorting, you'll see we have view type 1 and Interscale view type 2. So in our properties here, under our view templates, it's forcing these 1100 GA plans to go into design development and then GA plans, and that associates it into our project browser here. So you can see that here, GA plans, area plan. So it just keeps everything very neat. And similarly for our sheets, we have a sheet series by Interscale Title Block Series 1 and Interscale Title Block Series 2. So if we look at our cover sheet, we can see model information, project info, and that's how it's organized here. And then feasibility, sketch plans, and their names. If we start to create a section, for example, you'll notice that we have a drop-down, and these all are associated to view templates. So if I wanted like a detailed section, you'll see if I go to my edit type, it goes into my detailed section view template, and that means it's going to pick and choose. So you can say yes or no if you want them to be independent from the template or not. I typically just keep it there just so that it organizes it, but you can start to pick and choose. So you'll see here it goes design development and then detailed facade section. So that way it pushes it into our project browser. Similarly for our plans, floor plan, and you can see our different types of floor plans and elevations similarly. So you can see there are different options in there. I've just added ones that we think are appropriate for now, and you can add or subtract as you see fit. But very quickly as you start to make something, so if I make this, for example, an entry-level GA plan, you'll see I say OK, and it's put it into our GA plan here in our design development with our view template ready to go. So everything already looks how it should. We also have filters. So this one doesn't have a filter, but I know that if I go into my BADS assessment and change it, and I'll just hit apply, and you'll see that the line work has changed for our generic models. And that's because I've pushed it to town planning, BADS, and then that has put it into our project browser, but it's also had an apartment type color scheme, which then has a filter so that we can override this line work so we can see our color schemes better. So definitely take advantage of filters. We also have visibility settings for our doors so we can see their entrances. So you can see them in here. As I tick them off, you'll see the lines change and the approaches change as well. So you can pick and choose how your approaches are appropriately. I've just kept them all on just so that you guys can see it better. So now we can see all the approaches. There is also a room calculation point, which allows you to say which way this door is going into or out of a room. And you can see there's quite a bit of doors that we've put in already with typical sizing. Similarly with the windows, typical sizes that we have. And there are quite a few legends in here. So you can see if I go into our general notes, for example, there's general notes, maybe some articulation joints. You can see there's quite a bit in there. So go through and remove or add stuff to it as you see fit. There is also a keynote legend and a key plan. So these are the two that I put in, and you can use that to put onto a sheet and just have the key value instead. So that's ready to go for you. Similar with our schedules, we have tons of schedules in here that are ready to go for your apartment type, storage, even something like a room finish key schedule. So from here, you can start to add and subtract information. It's going to pick in this key name and it's going to fill in all of the finishes for that room. So I'll show you how that works. If I just go into my architecture tab and room, I'll just create one. I don't have walls, so I'll just use the boundaries. So if I put in a room, you can see it's toilet, have those certain types of finishes. And that's picking it from that key schedule. So if I just place my toilet in there, you'll see it's filled in that information. And if I change this to like a hallway, for example, it's going to change our finish schedule. And bedroom, you notice how quickly it changes. So this is really good. So we can go in and add extra information or change that information, and it'll adjust all of our finishes accordingly. Another good one is our sheet list. So we've populated what we think is appropriate for sheet naming. You can start to pick and choose and add extra rows and data. And you'll notice that they have the title block series. So if someone goes in and creates a new sheet, they can go in and pick, maybe we want to do our windows and like door details because we were just talking about them. So we can kind of just go through and select a bunch of them. And then we'll just select which title block we want to use. Just say OK. You'll see it's gone through, put it into the appropriate location and name them accordingly and create all the sheets with their appropriate title block. You also do have all of your title blocks available. So you'll see them in here. From here, there is a grid option, so you can turn it on and off as you see fit. You could use guide grids, but we also included grids just to make it easier to place views onto sheets. We also have a timestamp, so if you don't want your timestamp visible, you can turn that off. And you'll notice all the different types of title blocks visibility here. If you want your logos and your revision schedules, they automatically update in a formula. So just be mindful when you put in a new logo for your sizing. And all of that information that I spoke about earlier, your project information also populates into here, not just that starting view. You'll notice our families are named accordingly as well. So according to ISO 19650, try and create ones that have your prefix. So we have Interscale at the beginning, and then what type it is, so a view, and then an elevation marker. So it just helps with organization and seeing what stuff has been brought in and what is yours and what has not been audited. You can see similar for doors. So if I go through it, Interscale door, and then it says exterior or interior. Same with some furniture. We just brought it in to make it a little bit easier. Those generic model that you saw earlier. any roof type. So you'll see roof, and then it's generic, and then its thickness as well, and then some materiality. Similarly with our floors, say concrete 100 or 106 with BCT, and we have typical sizes. And then our walls. Basic walls, again, we have an Interscale basic wall exterior, interior, foundation, partitions, generic, and all typical sizes with their thicknesses and their materials. And lastly, our windows are similar. This type of naming convention also goes into materials. So if we just go to our manage and materials, and we have to look at what's used, you'll notice that we have, again, Interscale and then underscore its type, and then some extra information just to make it a little bit more clean. All of this will be also found in your ebook that you are being provided. So it's going to show you how to load stuff in, the naming standards, how it's recommended by ISO 19650, typical ways of doing walls or floors, as well as parameter naming. So being mindful of the dash, I'd probably recommend either an underscore or instead using your square brackets if you need to do some parameter naming and formulas. And how to name your families, how to name materials, and some examples of each, and then some Dynamo scripts, which I'll explain now. So I have a Dynamo player up at the top, so I just saved it to my top, but it is in your manage and all the way to the right Dynamo player. So once that loads, I'll have something like this where you can have your Dynamo script, so you can see your annotations, set level doors and windows in all the views. So that's what I showed you earlier in that start screen where you can go in and see the level of the windows. So it's going to take all the windows, all the doors, and find their levels that they're associated to and update that parameter. Similar with adding levels to selected levels, you just have to click on it. It'll say the distance between the levels, how many levels you want to make, and then select it in either a section or elevation, and it'll create those levels for you. Then we have update sheet names to uppercase. So just in case someone hasn't done uppercase, you can just press play and it'll go through and change them all to uppercase, and then delete all sections not in use. So from there, you can just go, it'll check if they're on a sheet or not. If they're not, then they'll be deleted. So you just have to press play. So we will be releasing more Dynamo scripts on a monthly basis, and then you can start to add them into that Dynamo player. And everything that I mentioned is going to be in this ebook. So you'll have your table of contents here, which you can kind of go through and double check everything that I mentioned. You can hyperlink to all of them, and all of their extra information is in here with screenshots and hyperlinks and everything that I mentioned. So you can jump around and go into various different sections. There even is ways to have like FAQs or common troubleshooting, and then ways to message us for help. So through our Discord server or emailing our support link.